Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork Podcast. Your host, Jacob Edmond, CEO of Ductworks, will be interviewing experts in the industry to bring you insights and knowledge about the latest trends, techniques, and challenges in millwork. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of millwork. Here's Jacob.
Hi, Kelly. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jacob.
We have Kelly Victor-Burke here with us today, and she is the owner of Burke Architectural Millwork as well as Bespoke Closets. And today we're going to be talking about the work she's been doing for many years now, creating an apprenticeship program here in the U.S. called the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist Apprenticeship, which I believe is the first of its kind and only of its kind today. A very unique opportunity that not enough people in our industry know about.
I'm excited to talk about it, Jacob.
Awesome. Yeah, I am as well. And I guess to get started, though, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit about your background. I know you started in education and how you came into the millwork industry and to your role today.
I spent 30 years in higher education at a local university here in the Detroit area. And my area of specialization, of all things not related to the wood industry at all, was geography and tourism and historic preservation.
Wow.
So just a little bit in the historic preservation.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was teaching, one of my passions was about curriculum development and also about what was the things that somebody who was majoring in a particular field of study, what did they need to know to become competent in their field? And this led to discussions with my husband, who is the architectural woodworker for his profession his whole life.
Okay.
And one of the things that was very clear was that this is a profession that is for those who are extremely talented, and it involves mathematics on a daily basis. It involves science, engineering, and technology. To be in the industry today, these are all the skills that somebody needs to be competent. And in our conversations around the dinner table, I often asked him about, do you realize just how high level that what you are doing? And he shrugged it off. Oh, if you're in the wood industry, everybody knows this. And I was like, but wait a minute. I don't think that the general public understands how talented that you have to be and how competent that you have to be in what is essentially STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And then I also asked him about where you're working, and do you think in the industry that there's a lot of mentoring going on? And he was like, no. And his whole, he's been in this industry for more than 25 years.
Yeah.
And where he was working, that they actually would fire people if they went and helped somebody else out. And I was just so surprised by that. And so when we had this opportunity to start our own business, which we launched Burke Architectural Millwork in 2016, one of the things that I brought to the table was how I wanted us as a company to be actively engaged in supporting workforce development and to tell not only our workers that would be joining us, but our whole society that this is not a profession for those who can't do or a profession of the last resort, but rather this is an industry that has great careers and that are available and should attract the brightest and the best.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting to hear somebody speak about this from an education background. It's clear to me, at least in the way you speak about this, of okay, here's the types of competencies that somebody in this industry, not just from an outsider, but somebody that you're married to, you intimately know this person, you've experienced what they experienced for many years, right? And understand, hey, here's the things that you're leveraging, the competencies you're leveraging to do the work that you do. Because I don't think I've never heard somebody say it that way, because I've been in this industry for more than a decade. And to it is very true what he said, that there really isn't mentorship or coaching or development that's very conscious. You and your husband were married. He was already in this industry. You were working in education. Somewhere along the way, you guys, I assume maybe you retired or you decided to shift and you guys joined forces and created Burke Architectural Millwork. Is that right?
Yes, I actually had 2 full-time jobs until 2020.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but honestly, if you ask me, do I look back on giving up and retiring from my university post? And the answer is no, because what I have been able to create is a different kind of classroom, and one that I'm just as passionate about.
When you first started, you started in 2016 was Burke Architectural Millwork, right? How long did the process of creating this apprenticeship take, or did that start right at the beginning, or was there a process that led to, hey, we should create
That is a great question. So initially, when we started our company, we said that we would hire young people and give them an in-house apprenticeship, is
Okay.
what we were calling it. And we actually had 2 people who had recently graduated from high school who joined us. But very quickly, it became very apparent that it was just like hiring just any other person that you were training in.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we had started a relationship with our local community college, and they sent 2 people over who were in charge of coordinating registered apprenticeships. And they came and talked to my husband and I about what registered apprenticeships were really about. And at first, I have to tell you, my husband was like, no way do we even want to talk to these ladies, because we do not want the government to have anything to do with what was going on in our company.
Interesting. Okay. And what do you think, what was that concern, I guess, at that point? Because I'm sure many people still probably listening to this feel the same way, right?
Yes. So we had so many misconceptions and misperceptions about registered apprenticeships. Like, one, that the government's going to be in your business. This is not true. These women from our local community college, Schoolcraft Community College, and their manufacturing program talked to us twice to assure us that the government does not want to tell you what to do with your employees. Mm-hmm. They are not going to be coming in and like observing and making sure that you're doing X, Y, and Z. As well, the other thing about the whole registered apprenticeship that we did not understand was that it is free. It does not cost any money for a company to adopt a registered apprenticeship. As well, we see that it is one where you tell your apprentice what they need to be doing. And so it was, for me and for my husband, we had to be educated about the reality. And I would also say that another big thing is we thought that apprenticeships were only available to businesses that were unionized, and that is not the case.
Yeah, that's probably another really common misconception. So at that time, you guys were really initially just looking to actively and consciously develop and teach and coach entry-level talent in the industry. And through that, you were presented with this information of, hey, this could be an apprenticeship, or here's a way that you could attack this. So what was the deciding factor or factors? What did they present to you that, one, changed your mindset, and two, made an apprenticeship make sense? What are the benefits of it that you guys said, hey, this is what we should be doing and we need to create this?
So they did us an incredible thing, which is they also happened to bring along the resume of a young man who was in the manufacturing program, who was just finishing up his basic studies because he was planning on going to a university, transferring to a university to study mechanical engineering. And this young man had been seeing us on Instagram. And when the women were speaking with him, because he was just hanging out in the hallways, you know how students are in between classes. And he was like, "Oh, you're going to Burke Architectural Millwork. I want to work there. Do you think you could? It looks like a great place to work. Can you help me introduce myself to them?" So they brought his resume, and his name is Logan. And we looked at his resume. We were like, wow, this is a caliber. This is just the kind of person that we would want. And so they brought us his resume. They also brought information about how our state, so we're located in Michigan, our state had a Going Pro pre-apprenticeship program that would put him into this pre-apprenticeship program for 9 months, and it would pay for his classes, and it also would pay monies that would go toward books and for driving back and forth to his classes. And so we met Logan. We just were delighted. We said, yes, we'd like to hire you. Would you like to be in the pre-apprenticeship program? And he said yes. At the end of the 9 months, he surprised us and he said, listen, I will stay at your company if you put me in a registered apprenticeship. And this is how we said, okay, we'll do anything to make you stay. Mm-hmm. So then the question was, what apprenticeship, full apprenticeship registered through the Department of Labor will we put you in? And Jacob, this is where the problem was. So the problem was there wasn't out there anything that we felt was attractive enough or good enough for our employee. And the reason why is because, yes, there's a drafting apprenticeship, but it was written before, I think it was like written in the 1970s, before computer technology. So it was drafting on paper.
And had never been updated.
And so we were faced with the situation where we said everything on the books is not good enough. And it's not good enough for our employee, and it's not good enough for the rest of the wood industry. So the two coordinators from Schoolcraft Community College, they whispered in my ear, Kelly, you can write your own apprenticeship. And they said, okay, but if you write it, you have to understand a couple of things. You have to understand that it cannot just be for Burke Architectural Millwork. It has to be for your entire industry. You have to get the entire industry to get behind you on this. And then you also have to understand that all the work that you put in, that when you actually submit it, there is no guarantee that they will actually accept what you are doing.
Okay.
And so despite all of that, I was like, let's do it.
Yeah. A little bit of a step back. So obviously from the employer's perspective, from your perspective, you're looking ultimately for a way to attract new talent that is skilled, and that hey, even if I hire entry-level talent, we're going to put them in this apprenticeship, and over time of being in this apprenticeship, they're going to gain skills that are valuable to us as a woodwork manufacturer. From the apprentices standpoint, because you mentioned Logan, he knew he wanted to be in an apprenticeship even before there was one for your industry. Can you talk about what, from an individual standpoint, is the motivation of being in an apprenticeship, and what are the benefits from the employee standpoint of that?
Yes, the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship has really, I think, been moving in a really smart direction by recognizing the fact that today there should be an alternative to a 4-year education, one where people are not incurring huge amounts of debt. Also, that apprenticeships will lead to a career of advancement and good paying jobs. And with all registered apprenticeships, if an apprenticeship through the Department of Labor is registered, that literally means that it is one that at the end gives that individual a certification or some kind of credential that is recognized across the entire country. So it's portable. It can travel with you. It's like getting a college education.
Okay.
And so that's, I think, very attractive today to young people or for any person of any age getting into a registered apprenticeship. And it has been vetted. This is something else. So when you think about what we were doing with our in-house apprentices, is we didn't have a good definition of what they were doing and why they were doing it. And so with a registered apprenticeship, it's laid out for you about here's the competencies that someone who is in that apprenticeship will master by the time that they have completed it. And so there's this intentional examination and understanding all the way along for somebody that I think is missing, or at least it was when we had an in-house apprenticeship program. It was basically just training, and we were calling it an apprenticeship. But now with registered apprenticeships, the Department of Labor has looked at this and examined, and you've had to give rationale about why the apprenticeship should exist. I think that's what is attractive to any employee, to motivate themselves to get and join a company that has adopted an apprenticeship through the DOL.
Essentially, the apprenticeship, once it's completed, becomes something that like you said, is portable, but it has value regardless of the employer in the industry. So the value for the employee is that at the end of this apprenticeship, they have a certification, and that certification is portable and really shows that, hey, I have these competencies now that are valuable to the industry, not just to a single employee.
Yes. And this for the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist apprenticeship also comes with a designation by the Department of Labor as a certification of a job title. You know how the government is keeping track of what people do, and there's a lawyer and a doctor and all kinds of titles that is recognized by the Department of Labor. Now Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist is also recognized as an occupation in the country.
Okay. So how long is the apprenticeship? A specific time to complete it, or is it credit based? Like how does the actual apprenticeship execute over time?
Yes. So I can speak really well about the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist apprenticeship, but I can tell you that there are new apprenticeships that are coming online through the Department of Labor that are various amounts of time and with different credentials. For the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist apprenticeship, this is a new type of apprenticeship which is competency based.
Okay.
And what that means is that we believe that it would take someone who is coming into the industry that has no knowledge or background or experience in it, approximately 4 years to complete. But it's not the traditional time-based apprenticeship where if you put in 4 years, then you're going to be getting your journey person's card or your certificate at the end. This is different because what this means is that it's competency based and someone does not move on or complete the apprenticeship until they are deemed competent in the various parts of the apprenticeship. So that's a big, I think new thing that I believe is very beneficial to our industry. The other thing is that the apprenticeship itself is a combination of CAD or CAM, and then another part is mechatronics, so CNC, your machinery, 4.0 technology machinery that is used in our industry. Then another part of the apprenticeship is panel processing and cabinet building. And then we have a component which is coatings and finishing. And then we have estimating and project management.
Oh, wow.
So this is multi-skilled, right? And it very much is for many small to medium size wood industry companies. These are the different parts that when I went around and talked to companies and asked them, what are you looking for as a multi-skilled employee in your company? What are the things that you want them to know? So putting it all together is what many companies that I'm now talking to, they say, gosh, you really have understood my company and I've never met you before. It's because, again, I think we all have this in common if you're a small or medium-sized company, that if you have somebody who is drafting, and you may have periods of time when drafting doesn't necessarily need to happen. So what do you do with that employee? The same thing with running your CNC or your other equipment. You want to be able to use that employee for cross responsibilities. And that's with the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist apprenticeship. So for Burke Architectural Millwork, having all of those components together is really important for us. But for other companies, if you don't happen to have a CNC, or if at your company you don't engage in coatings or finishing, you can take those out. Or if you don't want to have someone to do your drafting, you can take that out and still keep the framework of the apprenticeship. And that's, I think, also really something that's attractive. And then all apprenticeships through the Department of Labor have two parts to them. They have on-the-job training, and they have what is called required technical instruction. And required technical instruction is done outside of your company, right? We all, I think, understand what on-the-job training is. So for the apprenticeship, you and your company alone are the ones who get to decide what do you want to do with your apprentices for on-the-job training, and what is it that you want to have your apprentices learn outside of your company for the required technical instruction. So for us, we have our lovely Schoolcraft Community College and their manufacturing program, and they're down the road. They helped, by the way, in writing this apprenticeship, so we are so indebted to them. So what they do is we, in-house, on-the-job training, we are teaching cabinet building, panel processing. We're doing the estimating, project management in-house. And the required technical instruction for us is going to the community college for drafting, for NC, and for the engineering part. And for anyone who adopts this apprenticeship program, it's the employer that has to adopt the apprenticeship program. They get to choose what classes or who is your required technical instruction provider. It can be anyone that you're choosing. So if you purchase a CNC or another type of machinery, and it comes with an educational component, you can actually use that for some of your hours. If you have cabinet vision or another type of program that your company uses, that also comes with training, and you can use that for training as well. right now I'm so excited because I'm meeting all of these companies that could qualify as being required technical instruction providers. And now I just have to find the companies that want to use them for the required technical instruction providing. So there's this great, I just thought I'm going to be talking to companies and that's it. But I'm so excited to see, oh my gosh, there's all of these potential required technical instruction providers that we need to meet each other. We need to talk about how then you can say to their client, hey, we can be in this apprenticeship with you. So it's more than just a one-way street of talking with employers. Now we're trying to, and I'm learning about all these required technical instruction providers that we have in our industry, and I think they need to get in on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking now a little bit about your experience with this. You mentioned Logan. Is it safe to assume Logan is still with you?
He is. So he completed. So when we were working on getting the apprenticeship approved, so it took us 3 years.
Okay.
It took us 3 years, and I worked with so many incredible collaborative partners in education, in the industry. And I got to go in and talk to other shops and find out and tell them this crazy thing that we were doing, and they helped. This is the thing. I was like so surprised that our industry was so welcoming and saying, oh, Kelly, come in. And not only can I talk to you, but you can talk to my employees as well. That was like epic. And then Workforce Intelligence Network, which is a workforce development agency, also again collaborated with us. And this is another big component that all of us should be aware of, is that in our states and through the federal government, there is funding available for companies to adopt registered apprenticeships, and that monies to come to companies for their on-the-job training to defray the cost of that. But also there's pools of money that's available for the apprentice themselves. So kind of like I'm matchmaking between all of these different groups. And for Logan, it took 3 years. I was positive he was in a placeholder apprenticeship during that time. And so when it got approved, he had about 6 months left. He finished his coursework. He finished the on-the-job training. And he was the country's first to gain this national credential of Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist. Today, Logan is unquestionably the most important person in our company. I know people say he's standing right here. Why are you saying that? Isn't he going to get a big head? The answer is, yeah, he deserves a big head, and he knows it. We talk to him all the time about it. He is, I think if he's 23, that's probably maybe a year more than he is. This young man graduated this apprenticeship. He has no student debt, was able to purchase a house, was able to make the things in his house. And he is a really important person in our company.
And so now he is still employed there, and I assume continuing to be invested and developed and elevated in your organization with plans for a long career, I assume is the goal. Are there others that are either in this program now that are in your company or have gone through the program?
So I think it's important for me to be honest with the situation. So we did have a person who was our next apprentice in this apprenticeship program, but that person was decided that this was not what they wanted to do, and so left the company. And this was a really important thing of recognition, because a company is one that adopts an apprenticeship. They hire, but first and foremost, that person that you hire is an employee. And so you can fire someone who is your apprentice, And likewise, that apprentice can leave anytime they want. And so it was when reporting this out, I was told, hey, listen, don't feel bad. Don't think that this was anything that you did. This industry, and just like all apprenticeships, it's a thing where you have the right, an individual has the right to leave and just go look out for your next apprentice. So for us, we're going to be looking at the start of next year for our next apprentice. And there are companies in Michigan who also have adopted this apprenticeship. And there is a company in Texas that has adopted this apprenticeship. And there may be others that I just don't know about that have also adopted the apprenticeship. But the ones that I do know, I am so proud. It's unbelievable to be able to have an impact not only on the life of our employee, Logan, here, but to think that this apprenticeship has blossomed and it's available throughout our whole industry. I don't know how to describe it. It feels so good.
So you mentioned some companies have adopted it, but there could be ones who don't. I assume because this is just a Department of Labor registered apprenticeship that really any company in the industry can find out about and adopt. Like, you're not administrating it. You're not in any role of approving that. But it sounds like you are still heavily involved in, I assume, just because you guys are doing it and connecting, trying to push it. Like you mentioned, you're talking to technical instruction companies constantly. And is that just because you're researching for your own purposes and then finding options to then forward along to other companies?
Believe it or not, the Department of Labor has launched a honorary position called Apprenticeship Ambassador. And so you apply for it, you have to make the case on why you should be appointed to this position. And so I was appointed, and Burke Architectural Millwork was appointed in the first cohort of this newly launched program by the DOL as apprenticeship ambassadors. And so what we are tasked with is to go out and talk to the public about the benefits of registered apprenticeships. And for us, this means I am heavily involved going and speaking at industry events. And also anyone who contacts me, I will get on a virtual call with you and we'll talk you through it.
Okay, awesome. I assume you see tons of this as well, but I've spoken with many people here on the podcast, many owners, and I talk to and see on LinkedIn and everywhere people constantly talking about the difficulties we have in this industry of finding talent, of hiring talent, hiring skilled talent. Just in my need of engineering and design, I have on reaching out constantly trying to hire those. And so for those types of owners, company owners that are struggling with that, what would you say for them? Like, obviously this is, to me, a monumental opportunity here, right? Of, okay, somebody's already created the curriculum. There's already infrastructure in place. There's resources available. I assume yourself as a resource to basically walk somebody through every step who's done this. How can owners who maybe are interested in finding out more about this?
Yes. So there's many different ways, many pathways. So one of the ways is to go to my website, to my company's website, which is burkemillwork.com.
Okay.
And the last tab is about the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist Apprenticeship. There is an embedded webinar about just the basics of apprenticeship. And then on that page as well, on the tab of my company's website, is all the documentation from the DOL that specifies the name of the apprenticeship. It's called Rapids Code and ONET Code, which is what the Department of Labor uses to keep track of registered apprenticeships. So everything is there for someone to download. And then there's also the work process. So the documentation that I've uploaded onto our webpage on our website is enough for you to, one, just get background information, two, to understand that I'm here for you if you have any questions. My email address is there, which is kelly@burkemillwork.com. As well, one of our collaborative partners in the apprenticeship world is called Jobs for the Future, or JF. And one of my collaborative partners at that organization is Becky Caldwell. I have her email address there as well that you can contact her. She's a money person, so she's the lady that can tell you about how much money you can get. I definitely think you should check that out. So that's maybe the first thing that people should do if they're interested. The second thing is that you should meet and talk to your local workforce agency, workforce development agency. For me in Michigan, that is someone at Michigan Works. It can be, again, so that, and then there's all of these contracted out parties that are involved in workforce development, which is how I got connected to what's called SEMCA, and then the Workforce Intelligence Network is my local here in Greater Detroit. But if you don't live in this area, just do some investigatory work, find out what are and who are the workforce agencies in your local area. I will almost guarantee that there is going to be someone at these places who are in charge of coordinating apprenticeships through the DOL. And so get connected there. Another pathway is to go to your local community college and make a relationship with there, because that's how those two women from Schoolcraft Community College, they are in charge of coordinating registered apprenticeships, and they came to see me at my workplace. And so that is the other pathway. And of course, a third pathway is to contact your state's Department of Labor office.
Okay, awesome. Those are all really able resources. So I'll try to make sure we put some of those in the show notes for people as well. What is your overall hope with this? Is hopefully many people hear this and you're getting the message out there in years to come that this apprenticeship starts to, I assume, hopefully change the trajectory of our industry and the labor force here. What would you hope to see that people take away from this and can help push towards with this?
So the first thing from the Department of Labor's registered or Office of Apprenticeship office, I think they really are interested in a genuine way of making workforce development issues to try to address it in a real meaningful way. But I think that one of the issues is, how do you cross that barrier to actually make a connection? I'm lucky because I listened and I had the time to sit with them as they had to reveal to me the reality about registered apprenticeships and why it would be beneficial for my company to adopt one. So I would say my hope is that in the future, from the Office of Apprenticeship, is to make it easier, to take down some of the barriers that what we see happening as I talk to companies across the United States. From our industry, I see that there's a lot of really good movement now. And the movement that is not just beginning and ending with apprenticeships. So one thing that I failed to mention earlier is that this apprenticeship is available to any new or incumbent employee. So if you want to upskill your existing workforce, this is one real avenue that you should consider. But in the wood industry, we have movement that's even thinking before, and that is through the National Woods Board. So the National Woods Board is a newly minted nonprofit And I'm so honored to be on the board of the National Woods Board. And we're taking a successful curriculum that was developed and used in the mill, which is a CTE program in Colorado Springs, in an area school district. And this is very successful. The mill curriculum, which is taking CTE woodworking and making it a very professional type of curriculum through their existing and vetted curriculum that can start as early as like middle school and then end up with high school, so that the National Woods Board our goal is to take this wonderful curriculum and disseminate it out to school districts across the United States and replicate all of the positiveness of what is going on in their classrooms, and to be able to partner with education and industry from a K-12 perspective. And so how I see apprenticeship being a part of this is that it seems like this could be a very natural way that if a young person is graduating from high school, having gone through this mill curriculum, where they already know the essentials of cabinet building and panel processing in a real way that is using the standards and the sort of a testing from what has been created by the Woodwork Career Alliance, which is a great nonprofit as well. And so that a person can graduate and then enter into a full-time job with a company that has this apprenticeship. So I see this as not just apprenticeship standing alone, but being integrated into the curriculum of our high school CTE programs, where you can say to somebody, and not only to the young person, but to their parent, which is just as important, right? Here's why your child should be in here, is because you're going to be able to leave high school, enter into our industry where you already have this great knowledge,
Sorry.
and then to
Apologize.
Oh, that's okay. And then to be able to enter into the workforce and in an apprenticeship, and then you get your nationally recognized credential, and you do not have the student debt. You don't have, all the kinds of things that come with a traditional 4-year experience. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because I spent my previous past career in higher education, but I can tell you is that not everyone is best suited through a traditional 4-year college education.
Yep. There's two things I want to highlight from what you just spoke about. One, I think it's important, is that I didn't think about before, but that this is available, as you said, for incumbent employees. If people are listening and they're thinking, well, I'm not looking to hire anybody, this is a program that you can start with somebody that's already working for you. And two, for the idea of recruiting young talent, I do think that's very important, thinking about the young people's parents, because I know that from speaking even with the guys at Pitt's and even university programs in this industry, a lot of parents may have a young person who thinks, I want to go into the woodworking industry, and they think, I want you to keep all your fingers. And there's a lot of misconceptions or ideas out there about this industry, even the idea just like, are you just going to work in sawdust for your entire career? But that, as you mentioned, this program encompasses all aspects of the business and the industry. And two, it is a very safe industry these days. And so I think having that conversation about, hey, maybe this young person has parents that need to be spoken to or speak to them in regards to, hey, what is the real future earning potential, career opportunity, that this makes available for them. I think that is a big component as well. We're coming up at time. Is there anything that we didn't get to that is important that you wanted to share?
I think that the apprenticeship that is available now, the Woodwork Manufacturing Specialist apprenticeship, is one that people should seriously consider and look into, and that there is, and this is not something that they have to decide on right away, that this is something that definitely takes time. You may be a month down the road and say, I remember listening to this podcast, and now I'm in a position where I'm going to have the ability to reach out to her and to talk further. And so it's conversation, and that conversation can go on. And ultimately, I hope that it does result in someone considering and adopting an apprenticeship. But, just going out and making relationships with your local community college or your workforce agency can also lead to good things.
Before we go, there's two questions I like to ask every guest. And the first is, what do you see changing in our industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that our industry is going to be changing from the perspective of having more women and more minorities or people of color. I think that if we all work together to communicate that everyone is welcome in our industry, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see that our industry is going to really present well the diversity that we have in our general population.
I love that, because we are definitely an industry that is very male-dominated and lacks diversity on the grand scheme of things. So on the flip side of that, what do you see staying the same over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that this is going to continue to evolve. And as an industry, our wood industry is going to be an industry that people should join because we're doing great things.
Awesome. I appreciate you getting your unique insight on those. It's interesting as we look back at the people I've interviewed. Everyone has a different take and things that they see, but it very much paints a positive picture for our industry. I thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us today. I think that this is a really important topic and is really valuable information you shared with people that can be actioned on today. And I will put in the show notes your contact information and some of those resources you shared so that people can find out more about this. If people do want to reach out to you directly, I know you shared your email before. Is that the best way for everybody to contact you to find out more?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully continuing this discussion in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.